So as Miguel said, today we're going to look at an overview of Azure, broad overview today. Thursday we have storage, next Tuesday infrastructure services, and Thursday week app development. So this is the first part in a four-part series. We won't cover every aspect of Azure, but hopefully we'll give you enough to get you started to see where your workloads could apply to Azure. Also, just to set the expectation, this is a level 200 webinar, so technical, but not too technical. So I think we saw that the majority of our audience is architects, developers, CIOs, that type. So it should match the expectation. So the agenda for today, I'd like to start by giving you a high-level overview of Azure. Then we'll drill down into the building blocks and describe some sample workloads. I'd like to give you some insight into pricing and support options. After that, I'll take you through a short demo and we'll show you how to set up a highly scalable website in a few minutes. Once that's done, I'll sum up and open the floor for some questions. As we go, feel free to enter your questions into the IM window. The guys here will be collating them and passing on the easy questions for me to answer later on. So Windows Azure has components, and they generally fit into the following cloud computing pillars. We have IaaS, or Infrastructure as a Service, which allows you to build out new or extend existing compute resources to the cloud. You can create a VPN between your on-premise network and Azure and simply extend your infrastructure out to the cloud. Or you can create Windows and Linux VMs in Azure to host applications or to run development and test workloads. However you decide to use it, you're running Hyper-V VMs that can easily be migrated to and from Azure. We'll touch on this again in our demo, and we have a webinar dedicated to it next Tuesday. On the other end of the spectrum, we have SaaS, or Software as a Service, and this allows you to consume software without the headache of managing the underlying infrastructure. Examples of this are Exchange Online, CRM, SharePoint Online, all part of the Office 365 suite. In the middle, we have PaaS, or Platform as a Service, and this allows you to build your own software, deploy it to a platform that will run it and in a highly scalable and available way, and that allows you to focus on your development, again, not having to worry about the underlying infrastructure. Each of these pillars provide varying levels of control and require varying levels of complexity to deploy. For example, IaaS gives you the greatest control to run any workload, but this requires the greatest effort. With SaaS, it's the easiest to implement, but gives you less control over the environment. PaaS gives you the best compromise between control and effort, allowing you to build and deploy bespoke solutions without worrying about the underlying infrastructure. It's important to realize that some of these building blocks can work together. For example, your application may be deployed to PaaS, but may use a MongoDB, SQL Server, or even Oracle database deployed to IaaS. Or you could deploy custom apps to PaaS, which are then surfaced via Office 365. The point is that Azure offers you all of the building blocks you need to run any workload. There are a number of benefits to using Azure over on-premise infrastructure or even co-located infrastructure. Azure gives you the benefit of a global network of data centers, so you can choose where to deploy your workload. The workload can easily and quickly be scaled to meet demand or scaled out globally to extend your organization's reach. How you pay for Azure resources is very different to how you've paid for IT infrastructure in the past. No longer do you have massive capital investment, but you can now provision resources and pay for them monthly. There's also no need to pay for what you're not using. Simply turn services on or off when you like and stop paying. A large array of building block services can be used in isolation or together to allow you to run whatever workload you like. And that's not limited to Windows workloads. You can run Linux, you can build websites or applications in Java, PHP, Node.js, and you can build applications that target multiple devices like Android, iOS, and Windows. We're also committed to building strong relationships with partners so that you can truly run whatever workload you want. We recently announced a partnership with Oracle so that you can be fully supported by Oracle running on Azure. The same effect can be said about Microsoft products like SharePoint. When you run SharePoint on Azure, we can support the entire stack. Our development and QA teams work very closely together to ensure that the products run best on Hyper-V. and on Azure. So that, coupled with our support, makes Azure the best choice for Microsoft products. We're also the only cloud provider that can offer a complete management solution for your virtualization needs, be them on site or in the cloud. So using System Center 2012, you can manage all of your virtual machines in one place. And finally, Microsoft are very serious about security and privacy. So we have an entire website dedicated to that. You can see the security policies that are in place, and you can see the certifications that we've achieved with regard to Azure. We'll actually make this PowerPoint available, so all of the links that are in the PowerPoint you'll be able to access that way. Just a quick note on pricing. It's really important to understand how pricing works so you can predict your usage and understand costs. Essentially, you pay for four things. You pay for storage, compute, storage transactions, and any data taken out of the data center. So you don't pay for data going into the data center. So for example, if you consider a virtual machine running in Azure, you'll have a cost associated with how long the VM runs. You'll have a cost for any disks associated with that VM, and you'll have a cost for any read-write transactions on those disks, and a cost for any data taken out of the data center. The difficult piece in understanding is the transactions, the operations will occur, as well as how much data will be extracted from Azure. This is difficult because it very much depends on your workload. So what I suggest is you do some benchmarking to get a sense of how your costs will work. From what I've seen with customers, the cost of egress and transactions are small compared to the compute and storage, but again, that will depend on your workload. There are also a number of options for how you pay. Depending on whether or not you commit to a contract or pay up front, you can receive quite a bit of discount. If you have any further questions on pricing, you can discuss that with your account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is, simply respond to the email that Miguel sent you out, and we'll find out who the right person is for you. Just like pricing, there are multiple options for support. Free support, which includes dashboards to highlight any service disruptions, billing questions, and an online community. So any questions around billing are free, and obviously there's an online community with forums, etc., to try and help you answer any questions you have. Developer support allows you to log technical queries online and get up to 8 hours response time. And we have all the way up to Premier support that gives you the best response time with some on-site tuition and so on. Again, there's a link there so you can go in and see all of the support options you have. So let's have a quick look at some of the building blocks. At a high level, we can group the building blocks into a number of groups: storage, compute, application services, and networking. Each of these groups contain their own building blocks, and it's important to understand what they are and how they work together to help you architect your solution. Storage is clearly the foundation of a lot of workloads, and it's important to understand how the different building blocks work either alone or together. An important point to make in relation to storage is that you decide where your data is located. For example, you can choose to store your data in North Dublin and back it up to North Europe, which is Dublin. You control your data. The main building blocks for your storage requirements include relational databases using SQL Azure Database, blob storage for files, including your VHD or virtual hard drives for your VMs, NoSQL, highly scalable key value tables, and queues for messaging systems, and vaults for backing up on-premise data to the cloud. We'll go into a lot more detail on this in our next webinar on Thursday, but some typical workloads you can expect to see using these building blocks would include file storage, web or mobile applications that require messaging or databases, and backup and disaster recovery solutions using Store Simple, System Center DPM, or Windows Server Backup. When it comes to building applications, either on-premise, in the cloud, or for devices, there are a number of application services that Azure provides and you can consume. Caching allows you to improve performance of your application by storing session or other data in a dedicated cache server. Data stored in this cache can be made available to any of your cloud services, providing a highly scalable and fast way to share data between applications. Service Bus allows you to relay messages between applications or their components, allowing you to integrate systems whether or not they're hosted in the cloud. For example, large organizations with legacy systems want to allow them to be accessed by employees using handheld devices or by business partners in a business-to-business integration without moving those systems or their data into the cloud. Azure Active Directory is an identity solution that allows you to manage access to your applications in the cloud as well as your Azure subscriptions. You can even sync with your on-premise Active Directory to allow single sign-on for domain users to line of business applications. Media services allow you to publish media to the cloud, encode it, and consume on any device. And mobile services provides a backend for your phone or tablet app development, whether it's Windows, iOS, or Android. The services include data, push notifications, identity and access, job scheduling, and custom APIs. So the types of workloads you'd expect to see on Azure using these building blocks will be websites, line of business applications, or global web-based software as a service solutions. Whether you're connecting your on-premise data center to the cloud or load balancing traffic across multiple data centers, Azure has a number of building blocks. The virtual network allows you to create a cloud network to contain your VMs. You can define subnets and IP addresses. The network can be connected to your on-premise network using a VPN connection, allowing you to join your cloud VMs to your corporate network. You can then use System Center 2012 to manage your entire infrastructure, whether on-premise or in the cloud. This allows you to deploy line of business apps to the cloud like SharePoint, create disaster recovery solutions, say for SQL Server, or simply create dev and test lab environments for your development teams. A number of customers I've been working with have their applications deployed globally across data centers within Azure, and they do this so that users can access the application with minimum latency across the globe. To do this, they use Traffic Manager, which accepts all traffic and then distributes the load to the most appropriate data centers. When it comes to actually managing your Azure resources, you have three options. You have the management dashboard, which is an online web-based tool. We'll have a look at that now in a second. You've also got REST APIs and SDKs. Okay, so these are .NET-based JavaScript, PHP, Python SDKs, all consuming a REST API. This allows you to build Azure management capability into your applications and into your line of business applications. So imagine applications being able to scale themselves and being able to access Azure resources when needed. PowerShell scripts allow you to actually write scripts and embed them into your corporate Active Directory to allow VMs to be shut down or VMs to be spun up when needed. Give you complete control over the environment. Okay, I'm going to jump into a short demo. And what we're going to do is we're going to build out a scalable website in just a few minutes. Hopefully, assuming everything works as planned. So I'm just going to switch over to my browser. Okay, so you should be seeing my Azure Management Portal. And in here we have our websites, we have our virtual machines, we have our mobile services, and we'll touch on a lot of these sections over the next few webinars. For now, what I want to do is I want to deploy a website that's going to be scalable and elastic. I want to be able to scale that website out when demand requires it, but I also want to be able to scale that website back in when that demand ends. And this is a great example for online websites that maybe have seasonal peaks, maybe online retail websites over Christmas period may need to scale out, and then come January, February, scale back in to control costs. The website section here is an area that allows me to deploy very quickly a website and control the scalability of that website. So this is part of our PaaS solution, our platform as a service solution. The key thing here is that we're able to deploy our website and not worry about the underlying infrastructure. So I'm actually going to start off by creating a new website, and I'm going to use my gallery. And within this gallery, you'll see that there are tons of apps within Azure that we can use, everything from Drupal to Umbraco to WordPress. We can create blank, empty sites here. Joomla is there. We're going to create a WordPress site. I'm going to give it a unique URL. And I'm going to decide that I want to deploy that website to North Europe, which is Dublin. And I'm going to use an existing database that I've already set up. So that will take a minute or two to create. So here's one I've prepared earlier, Niall's blog. So this is a website that I deployed this morning. You can see the unique URL there. I can click on that URL and that will bring me to the website. And you can see that that's a standard WordPress site, and I can click between my pages. So I haven't done a whole lot with that, but it's a standard WordPress site I've deployed to Azure. You can see that my Niall's demo is actually running there already. Okay, so within a couple of minutes we have a brand new website. If I click into our website, we have a monitoring dashboard, so we can very quickly see metrics around that website, CPU time. We can see data that's come in or out. We can actually go into our monitor and we can configure new metrics. For example, HTTP successes, any errors that may have occurred on that website. When it comes to scaling our website, it's really important that we can scale out and scale in. Now, depending on how you want to deploy your website, there are three options. So to start off with, when you're developing your website, maybe adding content and getting it ready for production, we can start off with a free website. So I'm actually not paying for these websites, they're actually free. If I want to, I can click over to a shared mode, and that will allow me to actually scale that website up. So again, that's a website that's deployed to a shared environment. Okay, but I have control over how many instances. So this represents the number of web servers that are being used to service this website. So I can very quickly scale that up to 5 instances, or scale it back down when I don't need that sort of scale. And that's grand from a manual scaling point of view. But if I want to, I can click into our standard offering. And this gives me a lot more control. So I can very quickly change the size of my web servers from single core to dual core, quad core, and so on. And I can scale by metrics like CPU. So here I can define the minimum CPU and the maximum CPU range that I'd like the website to run within. I can say that I want my instances maybe to jump up to 9. And go no less than 2. And what this gives me is that elasticity. It allows me to scale my website automatically based on CPU, based on the load that's been put on the website. And I can even do that based on different schedules. So I may want different scaling rules for day or night. I may want different scaling rules for weekdays or weekends. And I can define the dates and times. So this is really, really powerful. The ability to scale in or scale out based on schedules, based on CPU, and basically based on the load that's been put onto the website. Okay, guys, sorry, I just was just paused there for a second because some people are having connectivity issues. I'm just gonna plow on, and hopefully the guys are going to look at the connectivity issues and see if they can resolve those for you. Sorry about that. I'm going to switch back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so hopefully that short demo showed you the type of how quickly and easily we can create a website, how quickly we can deploy a workload to Azure, how we can set up scaling. From an availability point of view, those websites have a 99.9% SLA. That's not to say you won't get more than that from an availability point of view. We will look at infrastructure as a service next week in more detail. But if you want higher availability than that, you can actually build out your own infrastructure on infrastructure as a service. You can set up load balancing, and you can do all those auto scaling things I've just shown you. But you have control over the infrastructure, and hence you can design it in such a way that you get higher availability than that. So we have an SLA around that of 99.95, but you can actually achieve more than that and guarantee more than that. Okay, so to summarize, Azure provides the building blocks for you to deploy your workload to the cloud in a secure, highly reliable and scalable way. Whatever the workload is, Azure can add value, whether that's extending out on-premise infrastructure with backups or VMs, deploying line of business applications, or spinning up dev and test VMs. Over the next 3 webinars, we'll dive deeper into the number of those areas. From the point of view of getting you started, you can sign up for a free trial, which is a 30-day free trial, and you get some usage. I think it's about $150 worth of usage that you can play around with. If you have an MSDN subscription, you'll already have some usage within that. Again, about $150 of usage. Or you can talk to your account manager and see how you might get started. From a readiness point of view or training point of view, the Azure training kit, again, the links are embedded in the PowerPoint, which you'll be able to download. The training kit is a fantastic resource. It's got a lot of demos, a lot of labs, a lot of PowerPoints. There's the online virtual academy, which has a lot of video content. And if you want to keep up to date on new features being added to Azure, we have a new release coming out in a couple of weeks. You can follow my blog where I blog around about all of the new features.